All right, it is a Monday. An off day for the Blue Jays. San Francisco. Not bad. Not a bad first.
Don't go outside.
See, that's just not. I mean, you know that they stay in a nice hotel.
Yeah, I know.
And I like San.
You do?
Yeah. A lot to do.
A couple of years ago, I liked it.
Good restaurants. And all you need are restaurants and bars. You don't need anything else.
Yeah.
Anyhow, it's Blair and Barker for a Monday on Sportsnet 590, the fan at Sportsnet. My Blue Jays taking 2 of 3 from the Seattle Mariners on the weekend. And 5-4. Thank you, sir. 5-4 wins. Lots to talk about. They are 41. Let's get that. I mean, they're 41 and 49, and they still didn't hit with runners in scoring position.
Don't be that way.
They were 4 for 26. The Mariners are 4 for 28.
You're fine, buddy.
Yeah,
you're part of the show, buddy.
Mark Boffo.
Say hi to everybody.
Yeah,
nobody saw you. Look at that.
Boffo even dressed for the show.
But he's tapped
Hey, buddy,
out.
when you're done, just inside and outside the car. You don't have to wash the hubcaps, okay?
He's tapped out.
He has tapped out.
Yeah.
He's on holiday.
I'm jealous.
Oh, look, it was. I love Dan Schulman's tweet about the games. I thought the series was fun.
I did too.
I really did. I enjoyed.
They were good games.
They were good games. Again, the reason I mentioned the runners in scoring position is because we talked about this last week. Flip a coin between which offense is worse, the Jays offense or the Mariners. So it was going to come down to pitching. The Mariners pitch awfully well. That is the strength of their team. Mm-hmm. But you know what? The Jays did enough in this series to take 2 of 3. And for me, at least, again, there's a lot of good stuff to talk about. This is the bullpen. Leo Jimenez getting his first 2 hits. I mean, we saw some life from Alejandro Kirk and again George Springer. But I got to start with Yariel Rodriguez, man. 6 innings pitched, 6 strikeouts. The Jays were leading 5-0 going into the bottom of the 8th inning in that game. As we get close to the trade deadline, the Jays are probably going to at least have to consider trading one of their starters. Mm-hmm. And they get a few more starts from Yariel Rodriguez, Kevin, and they're going to feel a whole hell of a lot more comfortable making that decision, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've simplified. This is the beauty of Pete Walker, right? I mean, again, we've talked about this. We've had him on our show. We've asked him about guys that he gets. What does he do? And it takes him a little while to, sort of try and stay out of the way to see what a guy does well, see what a guy doesn't do well. Yariel's got a nice little natural cut to his ball, right? He's trying to, on the flip side of that, live in the khaki world of trying to spin everything at the top of the zone. And when you do that, what do, Jeff? You don't throw strike one. You fall behind a bunch. You throw a bunch of pitches in per at bat. You throw a bunch of pitches, in an inning. That means you don't go deep as you want to go and to, sort of try and hide what you don't have in a pen. And then on top of that, you sort of, again, we talked about that, about making those little minor adjustments, trying to be a little bit more fluid with the delivery, which is exactly what he's done. You add that to the fastball command of not trying to spin everything, get swing and miss at the top of the zone a lot. Now you just sort of rely on what you do well, right? Be who you are. How do you keep it in the zone? How do you have competitive pitches to where they're really tough takes? All right, if you do that, it gives you a better chance to go a little deeper in games. That's what's happening.
Yeah, let's point out that the Seattle Mariners do one thing really well offensively. They swing out. They strike out a great deal. The stuff you saw from Rodriguez, though, that carry over against a better lineup?
Yeah, I think when he's got fastball command, not overthinking it. You simplify it. Now, he was 9 for 20, 9 for 20 throwing strike one. That's got to get better. Like that 56.5% of throwing strike one, it's not good enough. The league average is somewhere around 61%. It's got to get better doing that. That takes away the educated guessing. You throw strike one, that puts me on the defense. Now I can't educate guess against you. Like he's got a plethora of pitches. Now I can't guess with one of those because I'm behind. I'm on the defense. Now I'm thinking let it travel the other way instead of getting party out front. That's the difference, right? That's why they want him to sort of not all the time think about spinning it off the fingers, getting it out front and having that big-time spin rate and all those kind of things when that's sort of not who he is. when it comes to the fastball. Now, the secondary stuff, yeah, you sort of want him to do that, right? Throw it a little bit harder, have it tunnel a little bit longer, have it breaking a little bit more. That's when you want the spin rate. On the fastball, just be who you are with that thing. And I think that comes with simplifying the delivery, having a little bit more fluid, having sort of the same kind of arm slot, not having so much of the fluidity of that thing going all over the place when you don't have to. That's basically what this comes down to. He doesn't have to do that because he's got good feel and he's got good stuff, and that'll add up to going a little deeper in games.
Do you think the Jays analytics department will let him do that? Or do you think that
I think Pete Walker's got control of his pitching staff. That's what I think.
Okay.
And I think we've seen that when it comes to how quickly they make adjustments. I mean, look at Brandon Little. I mean, that dude couldn't throw a ball off a barn door like a month ago. Now, all of a sudden, he's thrown both them pitches about 50% of the time in the zone. I mean, that's the lead stuff, right? Again, it's got late movement to it, and it's the little thing of if my hands are too high, that means my arm swing is big. That means I can't repeat that. I can't get it out front and have the same release point all the time. So what do? You just move your hands down around your belt, which means that arm swing is a little shorter, a little bit more on point, and I can have the same release point all the time. I mean, again, this just gets back to, I think this is my personal opinion, when you have the best pitching coach in baseball that can look at what he's saying, let it play out a little bit. Don't just sort of try and overwhelm players with information, and then you just sort of start trying to tinker, fill in the blanks, and this is what you're seeing from these two guys, which is right now that's what they need from them.
We should mention, by the way, we'll be joined by Jayson Stark at 4:30. He's got a terrific article up in The Athletic taking a closer look at which current players are on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Always fun to talk a little Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame.
There's one guy that I thought of as soon as I read that.
We'll talk to him as well about the Jays and their potential assets at the deadline. Touch as well on the Yankees slide. They're 1-5 to start July, 3-7 in their last 10. Caleb Joseph joins us, Jon Morosi as well, as the trade deadline does approach. Before that, however, there is the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. You already know Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has been chosen to the game, voted in by fans. As of now, and again, things can change due to injuries, openings, etc., but he will be the Blue Jays' sole representative in the game.
About right.
Jose Barrios, we thought might have had a chance earlier in the year. Kind of a little bit of a wobble. Still Jose Barrios, still going to take the ball. Kevin yesterday, 6 innings pitched, 10 strikeouts. That's a career high. Hit 98. That's the hardest pitch of his career. Mm-hmm. Threw over 60% of his pitches for strikes. But, man, it looked to me like every time I looked up, he was falling behind hitters. What did you make of Jose Barrios?
Yeah, see, I don't. That's not. I mean, the home run that he gave up on the four-seamer in. I mean, that's just a dude that beat him to the spot. I mean, if that thing's 95, 96, that guy's out because he's a 9-hole hitter. Robles, I think is his name.
It's first home run in 2 years.
Yeah. It's like if it's an extra gear, he's out. I mean, it's a perfect location. Every once in a while, you just got to tip your hat to dude and say you made a good pitch. The guy beat you to the spot. Like, I mean, it's on the black end after going away with a sinker.
What is it, 22 home runs, 23 home runs he's allowed now? The most in baseball?
20-something. Yeah, it's right there. But Again, I think that a lot gets back to because he's feeling frisky with the mechanics and can repeat that and keep a couple of different pitches in the zone. And, he's attacking the zone. He's not going to walk you. Like, he's going to be in the zone a bunch of the times. And what are a lot of hitters trying to do? They got all or nothing in their swing. And, you throw a changeup, which is one of the dumbest sequences in the history of the sport. Yeah, when Garver's hitting like all over that 30 off a slider, off a breaking ball. Why you would... And then you saw the check swing off the slider that he had over the first baseman's head. Why, as a catcher, that you in a bazillion years would ever think about even throwing anything that doesn't spin is mind-boggling. But, again, this is, and I want to apologize to everybody who's made the decision to put George Springer in the leadoff spot. I was wrong. I apologize to John Snyder, any khaki that I'm sure was in the room that is throwing their 2 cents. What's that got to do with the
home run?
Because that was the lead, and then you thought the game was over because they don't score any runs. Okay. And then here comes Big Bad George.
You're back
hitting the 98. Look, dude, give him credit.
Give him an extension now?
Absolutely not. But, again, and now they're talking about they're not going to play him as much because he's in the back nine. I mean, John's even said that. Like I said,
well, they did sit him on Friday.
Yeah,
they did sit him on Friday.
Because he's back nine. He's getting a little older. Like the bat speed's probably consistently not there. Now they can, hook every machine up and find out what that is. So, I had my doubts. I was wondering, why you hate Bo so much? Maybe that Bo thing's ship has sailed, and it's more important to get the guys in the right spots who are getting paid the most amount of money. How dare I ever doubt John Snyder? So I apologize, John.
I mean, I, of course, have been a big supporter of George Springer from the get-go.
Sounds like you have been all over this, so way to go. Yep.
I'm not saying that he needs to hit 12th anymore in the lineup or anything like that. Let's talk about the bullpen. 4 scoreless innings yesterday in that 10-inning win. 4 scoreless, stranding 11. Again, not going to make we do have to mention the Mariners.
They stink.
Oh, they're awful offensively.
They're not good.
And I don't know what the hell's happened to it. Bigger shock. Here's a talking point. Bigger shock to you. Bo Bichette or Julio Rodriguez?
Julio. I mean, I was picking Julio to win an MVP in the American League this year.
We've spent all our time talking about Bo Bichette. I'm watching Julio Rodriguez. I don't recognize him.
Yeah, they're both having trouble with anything that's spinning. Why that is, who knows? I mean, that might have something with velocity, and it's just one of those years where you try too hard, you see your friends around you not doing your thing, you grip the bat too tight, you expand. Once you start expanding, you sort of get in a habit of expanding. I mean, Bo chases everything. And until Bo sort of zones in, I'm not saying Bo has to do that consistently all year because that's not who Bo is. Bo's a free swinger. But, man, he gets himself out a lot. And you notice when he gets the ball down the middle, most of the time he hits that hard, and it's a very productive at bat. So until somebody in that room raises their hand, remember I asked John about George Springer, what the heck took you so long? And basically they were saying as a staff, it takes a while to figure out how to tell your established players that they need to adjust something. Well, somebody needs to tell Bo, just right now, this is not working. You can't swing at everything that's spinning. Like everything and you saw Seattle's catchers were setting up with 2 strikes, Jeff, like 3 feet off the plate because obviously they're thinking he might swing at it.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we set up out there? I mean, that for me just tells you all you need to know. So somebody in the room raise their hand for Bo and say, we understand that you're a very, very good offensive player, but right now you're going through something. You got a lot of parts. Whatever that something is, now you just have to refine and hone in on something. Look right down the middle for something straight. If you see it spinning until 2 strikes, do not swing at it. It's not really that simple. Can he do that? Because if he does that, maybe he could be productive.
How on earth, Kevin, did the Jays run out 5 relievers? And again, maybe it's the Mariners lineup. 5 relievers yesterday, covering 4 scoreless.
Yeah.
And again, there were, and I mean, I'm looking at what were the Mariners' runners in scoring position yesterday. I mean, they stranded 11. They were 4 for 28 in the series, runners in scoring position. The Jays were 4 for 26 in the series, but had 2 wins.
Yeah.
Do we learn anything about the bullpen in this series, and in particular, Genesis Cabrera? Did we learn anything about him closing out the game?
I think you got to be real careful about when you use him, how much you use him in a series. I mean, you throw him back to back against the same part of the lineup, that may not go well. That whatever that thing is, he calls it a cutter. It ain't a cutter.
It's not a cutter. What do you think it is?
It's a slider slurve mix between a breaking ball, and a lot of times it's non-competitive. The ball that runs all over the place, that's 97 and left-handed, start there. You use that thing, and then you can expand with that thing, whatever you want to call that thing. But I think you got to be real careful. Then Pearson was lucky. I mean, again, you come in with a couple of guys on base with nobody out in the game where it's at, where your team's at. Give him credit. Like, he got after some dudes. He threw the right pitch at the right time. Now, the location was not always good. Now, if he does that against a good team, he might not get those balls back, but it's the Mariners. I mean, that Garver pitch was right down the middle, but it's spinning, and Garver's just, whatever reason, don't like anything spinning. Pop, that's the one guy that's confusing. His stuff is filthy. Now, I do know the people that I've talked to, they're basically forcing him to throw a few more cutters because the two-seamer, it ain't a sinker. It's a two-seamer. It's running a lot, right? And the lanes of where you have to start the two-seamer is just not there consistently, right? That could be arm slot. That could be timing of the ball out of the glove. That could be landing point. That could be finish. I don't think they really know, or they'd have fixed it already. That's why they're trying to sort of make him throw more cutters to get him off of the sinker, right, or the two-seamer.
That two-seamer,
it moves 3 feet and it's non-competitive.
Okay.
A lot of good hitters aren't going to face that or not going to swing at that. So, and then it looks sort of the way it looks yesterday. Little's really good, right? I mentioned the adjustments he made. Now, the hands are not so high. They're down around the belt. That means the arm path is shorter and quicker, means he can get it up, means the knuckle curve and the two-seamer are more on point in the strike zone. Filthy movement, throws hard. You don't have to so much pocket him, right? He can get a righty and a lefty out, which is sort of what they're doing. Now, Chad Green, that for me is a different kind of animal, right? How's he throw the slider to lefties? We saw yesterday the elevated fastball. That thing will play when it's 95, 96, 97. But he can't always use that. He ain't going to be able to abuse the fastball that inning against a lefty. Could he develop something?
I mean, at the stage of his career?
Absolutely. I mean, he's already tried the slow breaking ball. He couldn't. That's a field pitch. Now, a split finger, that I think is sort of what they're trying to at least suggest, because the slider, you saw it. It ain't good against the lefty.
No, it's
backdooring it and back footing it.
It's almost pointless to throw it to a left-hander.
Well, you have to. You can't consistently, because he don't throw hard enough to throw the fastball. But he has to throw it. Yeah. So it's either I locate it all the time, I get better setups from my catcher to where my misses are better and the pitch is more competitive, or I try and invent another pitch. And I just think that grip it and rip it split finger, I think you might start to see a little bit more of that. Now, Jimmy Garcia will be back, so they will be able to play around with when they want to use him. You know, what plays against more righties than lefties, because Jimmy is better against both sides of the plate. Now that Little's doing his thing, you can bring him in against lefties. It's just that's the thing, right, is how does he throw his slider only having 2 pitches in the elevated fastball to lefties?
I want to get over to the offense in a minute, but I asked you this yesterday watching the game. You surprised that they left Vladdy at third base yesterday?
What was my answer to you?
Your answer was you're not entirely certain he's any worse than Ernie Clement at third base.
No,
you'd rather have Ernie Clement at third and Vladdy at first? Okay.
Debatable.
All right. I mean, I think I'd rather have a guy who's played third fairly regularly as opposed to a guy who.
I think John has shown you that if they felt like that there was an upgrade, they'd be upgraded.
Yeah, and you don't want to take Spencer Horowitz out of the game. But
you could move Spencer to second. There's a lot of things you could have done if you felt like you needed to do that.
Yeah, I just threw it. I was just wondering. But of course, if that ball isn't hit the Vladdy, I wouldn't have asked the question.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that ball had top spin. He's trying to shuffle his feet over, stay in front of it. I mean, he did the exact right thing. You stay in front of it. His biggest strength at third is his arm. Mm-hmm. How do you catch it? Not to where you have to fumble it and then go to it. That's sort of where, the game would speed up on him. He did exactly what he was supposed to do, and then the bullpen came up and did exactly what they were supposed to. So I don't.
All right.
I don't think your
bench
is good enough that you can complain about any of that.
All right, I'm not complaining. I just noted. I just noted it. I'm not complaining about it.
A little.
Well, I'm trying. Why is there any Clement in your team?
To hit elevated fastballs against certain guys, and when Vladdy and they're not trying to get Davis Schneider in the game, that's when Ernie's in the game. How's that? And then Kiermaier's not in the game against a certain pitcher that's left-handed. You want to put Varsho in center. You want to put Schneider in left. How did I answer that?
Good.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, good. I still don't agree with it, but you answered it well. Alejandro Kirk.
Yeah.
Hard contact.
Yeah.
Are you seeing anything different?
Absolutely.
Anything different?
No, yeah. Well, I mean, Caleb did a really good job of talking about his finish right now. the palm up, palm down finish and not
explain that to.
Well, I mean, it's sort of, instead of having rollover at the point of contact, sort of what Danny Jansen's doing. People on TV can see me doing this, and obviously you can't see me on radio. It's point of contact. Top hand is rolling over towards third base instead of palm up, palm down to the finish. But your timing, your pace, and your rotation have to equal finish. There has to be a reason how he can get to his finish. If you picture him yesterday or the last couple of days, his timing looks better. That little thing he does with his front foot, like it's not a start, a stop, a start again. Kirky ain't athletic enough to do that. Okay, so the timing of the lower half is good. That will in turn help the pace. Pace is the fluidity of everything that starts from the ground and sort of just trickles down to his upper half, right? His hands start to just look like they're not stiff, and he's standing there and he's waiting, and I'm going to hit you. Kirky ain't good enough to do that. So the lower half with that timing sort of equals the pace. And then the rotation. He's finally, if you notice Kirky on his back foot, he rarely rotates it. His back foot is rarely up off the ground and towards the pitcher. It's normally like a catty corner, and his back hip is rarely being thrown towards the positive area to where he wants the ball to end up. The last couple of days, for whatever reason, it's doing that. So that allows him to catch up the velocity to different quadrants of the strike zone. That's why you can see him hitting the fastball that's high octane, elevated to right center. You can see him actually pulling a breaking ball on purpose. Like there's intent to everything he's doing offensively because of the timing, the pace, the rotation allows him to get to that finish that Caleb was showing you guys whatever day, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I try to simplify that because Kirky's got a very odd way of getting barrel to baseball. That's why he has to really get rotation. Rotation of the lower half means the back foot has to be up off the ground and finishing towards the pitcher. It can't be lazy and the backside sort of rotating more towards right field than the pitcher. That means that barrel is dragging, it's late, and it looks like a windmill, and he's late on everything. Breaking ball, off speed, and then you throw him a fastball, and he's jamming himself. He's looking for new bats. So that's help. Like if he can continue to do that, that lengthens the lineup, and that will make Danny Jansen better. That's what that'll do. Like now they don't have to abuse Danny. Danny can come in and you know, sort of try and lay off the breaking ball a little bit more and get back to doing what Danny has been doing when Danny's really well. Those two sort of work together. If I can play one 4 days, I can play one 3 days. And in the next week, you flip-flop them. The other one plays 4, the other one plays 3. So the one that played 4 is getting the extra couple of days of rest. It's sort of feeding off of each other a little bit.
I know we're up against the clock a bit here, but what we've seen from Danny Jansen since he's come back, I think he's hurting his trade value at all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm bringing Danny into backup catch 3 days a week and thump. Is he thumping?
Yeah. No, I just...
And it would worry me because now they, you know, their khakis are looking at exactly the same thing that I was looking at and everybody else is looking at. He's just like that. If you sort of showcase him too much and show the other team that he know like he's spin away, that's the sort of the thing, right? Is the big leagues is mean. Like the more you it's like Davis Schneider, the more you play and the more you have success.
Yeah.
It's like Ernie Clement. The more you show them you can hit velocity up and down, now all of a sudden you're starting to get it in more, you're starting to get it away more, you're starting to get more spin and fastball counts. Boy, it's mean, Jeff.
Jayson Stark of The Athletic, he's not mean.
No.
He's got a terrific article up on the Athletic website about the Hall of Fame, which current players are on a Hall of Fame trajectory. What are you laughing at?
Who do you think the first person I thought of reading Jason's article? I got about a third of the way down. Blue Jays in the minor leagues. That's been hurt since spring training.
Joey Votto. I mean, Joey's gonna. I think Joey's a slam dunk, man. I think Joey. I think Joey's a slam dunk. I just do.
I think it helped that the first baseman for the Rockies just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. That makes the on base percentage for me is a tough sell. Like I'm kind of
with you in that, and I don't think
it's a tough sell. But Todd Helton getting in.
I'm with you in that, and I also don't think that necessarily you can say, well, this guy is in, therefore this guy has to go in. I don't think you can necessarily. But make that case.
No offense to Joey or Todd. I mean, they are watering down the Hall of Fame a little bit. Used to be the hardest Hall of Fame to get into. It's not anymore.
Oh, I think it still is. Oh, I think it's
hardest. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the NHL Hall of Fame is the Hockey Hall of Fame is basically who you know in the NHL committee. Or if you've played for the Toronto Maple Leafs, you've got you for the most part, you get an edge. The NFL Hall of Fame is a bunch of guys. Who the hell knows when you're picking offensive linemen? And the NBA Hall of Fame is, or the Basketball Hall of Fame is. I mean, there's just not that many players.
Yeah, I just think I think a Hall of Famer in baseball, you can do eye test.
Pretty much.
That's it.
Well, we'll talk to Jayson Stark about that. Jayson Stark, Caleb Joseph, Jon Morosi. A loaded show for a Monday. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet. All right, we've got tickets to give away to see the Jays and Tigers at the Rogers Center on Friday, July 19th. We will do that in the 5 o'clock hour when Caleb Joseph joins us. Jon Morosi as well. Never too early to start talking about the trade deadline, yada, yada, et cetera, especially.
3 weeks?
Well, it's earlier this year than it seems to me. We've been talking about the trade deadline since opening day. But
Blue Jays been struggling for a while, Jeff.
Yeah, I realize that. I realize that. It's like I had to channel my inner Expos writer to remember what it was like. Actually, that's not fair because there have been Jay seasons where the trade deadline's been dominant talk. For example, Friday night, the Jays, when they lost 2-1 to the Mariners, shout out to Arden Zwelling for doing the work on this. It was left them 10 games under 500 for the first time since the final day of the 2019 season. So it's not as if there haven't been seasons where we've been looking ahead to the trade deadline or talking about the trade deadline. Just kind of a different feel to this because I just don't know. I mean, we'll talk about it later. I just don't know if we have any idea what this front office thinks or what this front office's marching orders are or whether indeed they have any marching orders. I've made this point. Normally by now, I'd like to think I have a pretty good handle on what a team is going to do. But other than, the obvious guys who aren't coming back here as free agents, I don't know. I don't know.
Nothing would shock you. I think that's it.
I'm almost at the point now where I would be shocked if Vladdy is traded.
Yeah, that's fair.
Almost at the point. I see Vladdy talked again and opened the door to possibly re-signing in Toronto. So, but yeah, beyond that, it's very difficult to get a read on these things.
Yeah.
You know what's also difficult to get a read on? I want to bring in Jayson Stark of The Athletic. Jayson Stark's not difficult to read. That's not what I'm getting at.
Mm-mm.
But, and thank you for joining us today, Jayson. Jason's article is terrific. I love talking about the Hall of Fame. I mean, even if I wasn't a Hall of Fame voter, I'd still like talking about the Hall of Fame because it's one of those topics where everybody seems to have an opinion.
Yeah.
Jason's done his look at the Hall of Fame, and Jayson joins us now. I believe. Do we have Jayson?
I'm here. Hi, guys.
There you are. Jason's here. I was looking for your face, but your voice will do. Your voice will do for me. I love the way you do these lists and throw these little quirks in. Now, right now in your list is Mike Trout, Verlander, Scherzer, and Freeman, and I don't think anybody has any problem with that. The injured list division of the right now club, Kershaw and Votto, I don't think anybody has any problem with that. Got to ask you this, though. Across the 50, You call it. Judge, Ohtani, and Jose Altuve. See, I think Jose Altuve I think he's a slam. I just think he's a slam dunk first ballot guy.
Wow.
He is for me.
Whoa.
Now, I understand you
the
write.
banging.
Well, the banging, that's 1 year.
Yeah. Well, as far as we know.
Jason, can you jump in here? Because it is a complicated, it's an interesting case, isn't it?
Well, I think he is getting elected. I think he should get elected. But I just had reservations because he's an Astro. And don't you think that if Carlos Beltran had not been an Astro, he would already be a Hall of Famer?
Absolutely.
I do.
Yep.
So I know he was a ringleader named in the report, as opposed to Altuve, who it really doesn't look like participated in the trash can banging exploits at all. But I can't predict how my fellow voters are going to vote ever. And when it comes to cheating, we've already seen that there are voters who won't vote for anybody they think, quote unquote, cheated. So maybe he gets dragged into that group. I just don't know what to do with him or with that whole team. So that's really why he's there.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I look at his position and his numbers at second base.
Right.
And yes, there's the trash banging, the trash lid banging and all that. But and I admit, I approach this as a guy who votes for the guys for steroid guys. I just do. But my goodness, I mean, most of the steroid dudes, you could look at that and go, okay, that was 3, 4, I don't know, maybe 5 years. But this was a 1 year thing. And even if it was a 1 year thing, as you say, there's no evidence to suggest that it particularly helped him. I'm saying, I think you're right. I think it probably cost him a first ballot. I'm voting for him in the first ballot, though.
Jason, before you answer, you know what it is? It's the shirt thing. It's not letting his teammates rip his shirt off.
Oh, that's
what it is.
That's
you
nonsense.
can't get that image out of your head. Him running to home plate, not letting him rip his shirt off. I'm sorry, that's it, Jason.
Yeah, you're talking about the walk-off offer all those checks in the LCS, and
that's nonsense.
I think there are enough voters who have that in their heads, or have the whatever Astros hangover in their heads, that this is going to be harder than it should be. Other than that, I don't know if the question should be, is he going to be a Hall of Famer? It should be, is he going to be Derek Jeter?
Okay. No, that's fair. As I said, I can see. I still think there are people out there, Jason, who'll go, "Yeah, you're a Hall of Famer, but you know what? You're not getting into my first ballot. I'm gonna spank you for that." And
I don't know. Jeff, I don't know. I do not know how people are going to handle the Astros. I just know Carlos Beltran clearly got dinged for it.
Oh, you're right. Who? I'm not going to ask you who's in most jeopardy right now of this list, and it's a lengthy list. I'll direct people to the article in The Athletic. Mm-hmm. But is there somebody that is at a certain point in their career where it could go south for them?
A guy I was sure was on a Hall of Fame path last year, who I'm not so sure now, is Ronald Acuna Jr. Mm-hmm. And that has nothing to do with his accomplishments. It has nothing to do with his talent. It has to do with 2 reconstructive knee surgeries in the last 4 years, and trying to project what that means for him moving forward, because he's got he has a lot of numbers to put up if he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's 26. So he's one. And then I'll admit this. I was really bullish on Vladdy last year, and I'm a little more hesitant now, even though he's having a good year. Just Vladdy, since the one great year, has not been the same. His ability to hit the ball hard power is still there. His ability to hit it out of the park hasn't been there. And I just don't know that his slash line that we're seeing this year, if he were to put this up for the next 8 years, would get it done. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think at some point he's going to have to start down that path to being a home run hitter again. What do you guys think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I
think it's the big league parks. I think that's what it is, right? I think he had the really good year at the minor league parks.
And I think I think that's part of the thing. If Vladdy's career year occurred when he was hitting in minor league parks, I think that's something people might end up holding against him. But
yeah, I agree. And here's the thing: we have a lot of tools now to evaluate a hitter.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And if you're just going to look at hard hit rate and average exit velocity, Vladdy's way up there in those metrics. So you would buy stock in him, but would you buy Hall of Fame stock in him? We just have we just have our Hall of Fame magic numbers. They're fading fast because baseball's so different now, but you've got to approach some of them. And at this point, how many home runs is Vladdy going to hit in his career? I don't know if it's going to be enough.
Another guy, and again, Astros connection here that you have in your list that I've wondered about is Carlos Correa. I mean, his last year offensively wasn't very good. Now he's hitting .305 this year.
Yeah, he's been really good this year.
He's been really good this year, and he's still a career .274 hitter. Is he a guy that you think is on that cusp? And, if he's a guy that, let's say that Carlos Correa plays for another 5 or 6 years, and do you think that he's a guy that could conceivably play himself out of contention here?
Out of or into? I think he's
Both,
a really interesting guy. Right? Okay. I don't know where you guys stand on wins above replacement as a guidepost, but if I were to ask you, what active position player under 30 has the most career wins above replacement?
He's got
Would you know it's Carlos Correa?
No. He's got like 44 or 45, though. I cheated. I just looked, and that blew me away.
That's right.
I would not have answered Carlos Correa.
Jason, do you ever use eye test to judge
Absolutely.
Hall of Famers?
Of course.
Is he just by the eye test, is he a Hall of Famer?
Well, depends when you're watching him. Look, he's battled so many injuries, Kevin, that the years, he loves to play, he loves to post. He understands the importance of posting to his teammates. So those years that he's playing through stuff he really shouldn't be playing through at all, he doesn't look like a Hall of Famer.
No.
But if you watch him this year, he looks like one. He's a shortstop. He's 29, and he can play. He can hit. He's a face of a franchise. He's a leader. He gets a lot of points for all that from me. But because of health and because of the Astros, I don't know where this is going.
Yeah, it's tough. Jury's still out on that. I got to ask you about the closers. The Kimbrel, the Jansen, Aroldis Chapman. Now, that one, the Josh Hader thing for me, I'm not on that camp yet, but I think the Aroldis Chapman, the all-time left-handed strikeouts leader out of a pen, is that a big enough deal to get him in, would be the question.
I think Billy Wagner is going to help all those guys because I think he's going to get in.
Yeah.
And I'm really struggling with Kimbrel, Kenley, Chapman because I cover these postseasons, and I've seen either their worst moments or I've seen how hard their managers have worked to not put the ball in their hands in the biggest games.
That's exactly where I was going. Yep.
Yeah. So, I look for claims to historic greatness. They've all got one. Kimbrel, Kenley, Chapman. If you look at the regular season numbers, they've got claims to being as dominant as anyone who has ever come out of any team's bullpen. But where do we weigh October in the formula for closers? There's a reason that Billy Wagner took 10 elections, and he's still kind of treading on that line. And I see this group treading the same line, don't you?
Yeah, I think so.
There is nothing I struggle with more when I'm doing a Hall of Fame ballot than closers. There just isn't. Because you can make. I mean, remember the argument about Lee Smith? Well, he was a career saves leader for a long time. How come he wasn't going in the Hall? And I don't know. I've never. It's the one thing that I don't think I've ever actually felt entirely comfortable with, Jason, is how I rate closers. Like Sutter and Gossage, Bruce Sutter and Gossage to me were easy. But other than that, and Mariano obviously. But other than that, man, I struggle.
Yeah,
it's really hard. It is, and Mariano ruined this for everybody.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah, he really did. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know Luis Gonzalez happened. I know the Sandy Alomar Jr. homer happened, but otherwise, that guy was as close to perfect as you could be in the biggest games of his career against the best hitters on earth in the biggest moments. And that's what you expect your Hall of Fame closer to look like. But he's the only guy who's ever looked like that.
Yeah.
Jason, let's shift focus a little bit here. Do the Yankees, do you think the Yankees, or more particularly their front office, feels a little different about their team right now than 2 weeks ago? I mean, I know I've got to think the Reds came out of the Bronx feeling a lot better about their team. And, of course, the Red Sox had them this weekend as well.
How can they not? They're like, they were so good for the first 2.5 months, and that was like they're never going to win another series. They tried to survive all those weeks without Garrett Cole, thinking he would put all the pieces in place on their staff. And I would never have expected their pitching to crater after he came back, but that's what happened. They're 5-15, and they've given up 130 runs in the 20 games. It's more runs than they'd allowed in the previous 43 games. So I know that they were thinking they might need a starter anyway. Now they definitely need at least one. And then there's the lineup. You guys just saw them.
Yeah.
Outside of Judge and Soto, who in their lineup are you afraid to pitch to? I mean, Judge's OPS is over 400 points higher than everyone else on the roster not named Soto.
Yeah.
They don't run. They don't manufacture runs. So if Judge and Soto don't hit baseballs to the bleacher creatures, they can't score. Maybe Ben Rice changes that, but they have big needs. If you match them up against the Orioles, assuming that the Orioles are going to trade for at least one starting pitcher, I mean, where's the path for them to finish ahead of the Orioles? It's really hard to see.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at last night's lineup, and my goodness, by the end of the game, Sunday night against the Boston Red Sox, the Yankees ran out. Their bottom 5 guys had only one guy hitting above 250. That was Volpe at 251. And then 216,
5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is rough.
Wow. Is it ever? It is really bad.
Jason, staying in the East, what do you think the Jays do?
Kevin, I know that they didn't want to sell.
Yeah.
I don't see now how they wind up doing anything other than sell. They can't win the division. We know that.
No.
And what are they? They're 8.5 out in the wild card with, I think it's 7 teams to climb over. Last I looked, Fangraphs thought their playoff probability was 2.5%, somewhere in there. And that seems high to me.
Yeah.
So, all right, that answers one of the 2 big questions. Can they play in October? That's a no. So the other is, why hasn't this worked? I know injuries have crushed the pitching staff. Understand that. How do we explain the offense? They're last in the league in homers. Last. They're 12th in slugging. Is it the ballpark's fault? Is it the manager's fault? It just feels like, for whatever reason, it's the construction of the roster. And how are you going to rebuild it? Like trading away the Reynolds, Danny Jansen, and Yimi Garcia, and Yusei Kikuchi, that's not going to change anything.
No.
So how can they not listen on Vlad and Bo? That's where I am.
Yeah, I had someone with another organization tell me they viewed it as a, quote, total systems failure. And I think that that might be the way
Jason,
to put it.
Jeff's been saying this, too. They got the worst bullpen in baseball. What do you do with that? I mean, they're trying to piece that thing together, too.
They didn't think they did going into the season, but they are where they are.
Yeah.
No, they haven't, and they really haven't. They really haven't done anything by not addressing the bullpen. When you don't have Romano and Garcia for a couple of weeks and you don't address it, to me, you're sending a message.
Yep.
Or maybe unintentionally, but you're telling me what I think about your team.
The last 2 weeks have been disastrous on many levels. The bullpen performance has been right at the top of that.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what there was to do that would have addressed it. Those were your words, but they just didn't have the reinforcements to fix this. Chad Green can't pitch you can't pitch the 7th, 8th, and 9th.
No.
Let alone the 6th.
No. Jason, really good of you to join us, man. Thanks so much. Terrific read as always. And, terrific talk. Thanks, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Be well.
Always a pleasure, boys. Thanks.
See ya.
Thank you. It's Jayson Stark of The Athletic. I'll send out a link to the
Very
Athletic.
good. Get you thinking.
Oh, I love Hall of Fame talk. The Hall of Fame class, by the way, this year, and it goes in later in the month, is Beltre, Helton, I'm missing somebody. Oh, Joe Mauer and Jim Leland going in through the committee process. And this is what I keep getting back to with the Hall of Fame. I love the committee setup right now. Yeah, we can debate it, and the committee process with the Hall of Fame is a little bit like the Hockey Hall of Fame, where, except at least here you get the vote breakdown. You don't necessarily know who voted for who. But generally, the committee process has been a pretty good safety net for addressing guys who've slipped through the cracks. Every now and then you get the Harold Baines thing happening. But, look, that's by and large, I would suggest in the last 12 years, he's really the only player to go in either via election or through the committee process that I've really, really had an issue with. And that's pretty good. Because one thing about the Hall of Fame, you never want to have a debate, why is so-and-so in there?
Yeah, I think sometimes they try, right? There's a lot of voters that are trying to sell why they're voting for some or certain players. Again, I will say this. I will say this. It's not hard.
I take it a lot more seriously now than I used to in terms of giving guys a second look. Just because it's different now. There's not as Jason says, there's not the numbers that immediately get your attention. They're never going to be. Do you think anybody in this, I'll ask you, do you see anybody who's going to play long enough to hit 500 home runs, 600 home runs, 700 home runs? I don't know the way velo is in the game right now, and I understand power's there. But, anybody ever going to challenge Joe DiMaggio?
No.
Hitting streak? There are a lot of the numbers, and, never mind starting pitchers.
Yeah.
A lot of those numbers are out the window. So it's going to become, I think the committee process is going to become more and more important, and I'm okay with that. But, yeah, Jason's list is interesting. And I'll admit, to me, Jose Altuve is a first ballot dude for me.
I just can't.
He's a first ballot dude for me.
With what he does between the lines, I'm with you. I just can't get the don't rip my shirt off out of my mind.
Robbie Alomar were terrific best offensive second baseman I've seen.
I'm not arguing, but he was a part of the
Joe Morgan.
Sorry.
Wow.
I'm sorry. You can't tell me at no time he didn't go, I heard that. Bam! Like, come on, dude. Like,
has his production decreased since it stopped?
I'm not saying he's not a good player. I'm just saying he was a part of it. He was on the team.
Yeah. His production has been so consistent. I don't think there's any issue with that. But we'll find out. Got tickets to give away, and Caleb Joseph. Don't go anywhere. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker. From Monday, July 8th, Jays have tonight off. They're enjoying an off day in San Francisco or wherever the hell they're staying. I don't know if the team's still staying downtown San Francisco. I guess they do. Because they're playing in San Francisco. It's not Oakland. Well, they used to stay in San Francisco when they played in Oakland as well. I don't know if they still do. I don't understand why people wouldn't stay in Berkeley if you're playing in Oakland. Berkeley's great. Berkeley Marina is tremendous. But anyhow, an off day in San Francisco.
A lot of that's secretive. Like you got, it's down the down low.
An off day in San Francisco is never.
It's like that Seattle thing. It's on the down low.
The down low. We've been giving you the chance to win Blue Jays tickets all season long here in Blair and Barker, and by gosh, we're not going to stop right now.
You are a man of the people.
I am a man of the people. All you have to do is text the correct answer to our daily baseball trivia question to 59590. Our last question and answer was, this player who shares his name with a longtime NBA guard played for both the Blue Jays and Astros in 2019. The answer was Derek Fisher, and the Jays' Derek Fisher was That's my favorite player all time. Might have been he was a 5-tool. What was the?
Oh, that was it.
It was an elite. He had an elite run tool.
Don't you say it. And a 5-tool guy.
He was a 5-tool guy with a, quote, elite run tool.
Who said that?
Somebody in the Jays front office when the deal was made. All I remember is him letting the ball bounce off his face. But anyhow.
You won't say his name.
Derek Fisher. God, the summer of Derek Fisher. Who can forget that?
The ball of his face.
Today's question is to win tickets to see an elite run.
Oh, man.
He has an elite run tool.
Yeah. Better first to home than anybody in the history of the sport.
Today's question is to win tickets to see the Jays and Tigers at the Rogers Center on Friday, July 19th.
Can't make this up.
This person did not have an elite run tool, although he was fast. This outfield originally came over to the Blue Jays in a trade from the Astros and was later traded to the Tigers for a second baseman. His last appearance in MLB was in 2022, when he appeared as a pitcher for the Cleveland Guardians. Again, this outfield originally came over to the Blue... You would get this. Originally came over to the Blue Jays in a trade from the Astros and was later traded to the Tigers for second baseman. His last appearance in MLB was in 2022 when he appeared as a pitcher for the Cleveland Guardians. Text the answer to 590-590 for your shot to win. See rules at sportsnet.ca/590.
Show it to me. You knew it right away?
I did know it right away.
Oh, he got hurt doing it.
I mean, I don't know.
Oh, that was Canada Day. He got hurt.
No, Canada Day.
Then what went? He got hurt though, right?
The dude that got hurt was no. The dude that got hurt on Canada Day was Gome. The second baseman.
I shouldn't have asked you this, should I?
They brought him in to pitch.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, Jesus! Now you're going to annoy the hell out of me. Yeah, why would you do that? Especially on a Monday.
On purpose.
You know the guy I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
Let's bring in Kayla. Why would you do that?
You still don't know who it is?
Well, I know because Ryan. It's going to drive me around the bend. Anyhow, let's bring in Caleb Joseph. He won't drive me around the bend. I hate when Barker does that, Caleb.
Hey, are you on the back nine right now?
No.
Of your life or what?
Changing diapers, vacuuming, picking out trash, all the good things.
So then you are in the back nine, pretty much.
You're funny.
Go ahead, Barker.
You want me to start?
Well, I'm trying to find it.
Oh. Hey, should I came on this show a little bit earlier and apologized to John Snyder for putting George Springer in the leadoff spot. Is that the right thing to do? And
Ryan Goins,
are you seeing? There you go. Are you seeing something from him that will tell everybody that this is going to be the George going forward from now on? This is what we're going to see.
Well, first and foremost, takes a real man to come on there and kind of apologize and say that you didn't get it right. I probably wouldn't have done it. I would have spun it even more. I would have doubled and tripled down. But good for you, Barker.
Well, I called him dumb. I called the situation dumb.
Barker's ready to extend.
Should have never done it, and now I have to backtrack and say it's the greatest thing that John Snyder's ever done.
So. The only reason that I'm okay with it is because I've seen massive changes. I saw a big change in his approach in terms of how he holds his hands. the fact that he has now lowered his hands and is closer to that launch position, I think that's a huge adjustment that we can physically see. And you know how it is, Barker, when you're making an adjustment that's about 4 or 5 inches in your body, it feels like it's 2 feet of a difference. And so what that probably does is allows him to really feel like he's just kind of loading and going. And I've looked a lot at George Springer's swing, even when it was going bad. And like mechanically, it wasn't that there was this massive drop in the barrel, or he just was, striding too long, or it wasn't that there was all these components that weren't stringing together, where we can sit there and we can talk about certain things with Vladdy. We can talk about certain things with Varsho that we absolutely see. But with George, he just was never on time, just could not get on time. And then he had to cheat and all of these different things. This huge change in his hands has really allowed him to get to pitches that he has gotten to for the most part of his career. And I think he's putting in a lot of work. I think he's getting in there. And I have not seen him on the field for BP in a while. And that's not normal. Normally, George is out there hitting batting practice, hitting balls into the seats every single day. And I've seen him in the cages. And so I think he's really starting to kind of like work on some newer techniques, some newer things. And I think it's starting to show. And because of the track record, I do think that it is sustainable because I'm seeing huge adjustments, and there's not a ton that has changed in terms of his actual mechanics, which I think are pretty decent to begin with. He just was never on time. He's now able to get on time.
Why does it look like Bo Bichette can't hit a ball for T? Explain it to me.
Oh, boy.
Good luck.
For me, yeah, I know. For me, he honestly looks like a player that is playing outside of his body. I mean, how many times would it be said that another opposite field base hit, leads the majors in base hits to right field? I mean, he was borderline the right-handed version, American League version of like a Fred Freeman. Freddie Freeman gets a ton of base hits to the opposite field, and we just have not seen that. Now, he, for some reason, looks like it's an accidental ball going over to right field, and that was his smooth swing. And what I've seen is, more than ever, I've seen the front hip just absolutely flying. And I thought a perfect example of it was late in the game yesterday in Seattle, and he got down to 2 strikes. And first, to get to 2 strikes, there were a couple sliders. They're about 3 inches off, and the pitch is halfway to home plate. And that front hip is flying towards left field. And that just tells me he's trying to pull. He's trying to pull. And when Bo tries to pull, for me, it's all about him trying to go for power. We've talked about this with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. These guys I think there's 2 types of hitters. I think there's pure hitters, and I think there's sluggers. And I just think these guys are pure hitters. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, they're pure hitters, and they will accidentally hit some home runs. I think Vladdy fooled a lot of people hitting a bunch of homers in 19, and that might have been an outlier. He has the potential, and if he gets on a run, he can absolutely do it. But I think he's just a pure hitter to begin with. And so I think when you ask a guy like Bo Bichette, maybe subconsciously because of the way the lineup is constructed, to maybe do more, and more is power, more is slug for him, he's been behind the 8 ball trying to figure all this out, constantly stuck in the gray. But the biggest thing is that front hip is flying. And I just don't think he's a natural pull hitter. I think he's a natural up-the-middle oppo, and he just does not look comfortable at all going to right field.
See, I'm not sure I agree with you, but I think you are what you swing at. I think that's a big deal, right? I think he gets himself out a ton. And I'm just not sure he's capable of looking right down the middle for something straight. That I think is the part of it. And I had John – the reason why I'm bringing this up to you, Caleb, is because you're not too far removed from this room, like the Blue Jays room, and the conversations between hitting coaches – and players. And I asked John when we were talking about George Springer, basically, why did it take you guys so long? Like, why the change now? Why did it take you so long? Like, he's been looking awful forever. Like, why all of a sudden you went in the room? And his answer was very honest. He basically said it took a coaching staff a while collectively to get together and tell a veteran guy who's made a ton of money that this ain't working. You got to change this up, do something different, because if it don't work, he's lost a month here. That's what I see from Bo. is just somebody, for whatever reason, because it's like Groundhog Day, he swings at the area code, Caleb, and it sort of looks the way you were talking, right? I'm not sort of in the camp that he's trying to pull everything. I don't think Bo's capable of doing that. I think when you are chasing, it just sort of looks that way. But it is that conversation of back and forth where, dude, this ain't working. Stop doing that right now. Like, you're capable of that. And I just don't know if the coaching staff is capable of relaying the message. You're not too far removed. Am I on to something, or am I just trying to throw this off all on the coaches because I think they're not good enough? Where am I at here?
Yeah, no, I definitely think you are on to something. And part of what makes these really good hitters as good as they are is their ability to say no early on in their career and just be who they are. I think Spencer Horwitz has that ability to say, no, I'm not going to go for power. I'm going to go for on base. I'm going to go for doubles, and it's going to turn him into a very good hitter. I wish I did that more as a younger player, not go into it the first 3 months of a big league season and allow anybody to say anything, and I'll try it. Hey, why don't you pick your elbow up? Okay, 500 swings in the cage later, I've tried to pick my elbow up, and now I've totally forgotten who I am and what makes me a good hitter. But at the same time, when it's repetitive and when it's being done over and over and over, and it's obvious that they're not able to get back on track, that's when it is time to kind of open up as an older player and say, okay, what do you have for me? Because I think with a younger hitting staff in terms of like service time and in terms of just presence, I don't know, maybe Donnie Baseball could be the only guy that could go in there to a George Springer right out the gate and say, hey, man, change it up right now. Yeah. But they're going to lean on a lot of these players' experiences. And, I mean, if you're the player and you've been so successful, you constantly believe that you're one swing away from getting right back to it. And so it might take 6 months over 2 seasons for a George Springer to realize, okay, this isn't working. It seems like a long time, but I mean, goodness, he's been doing it a certain way for almost 10 years. So it's all relative when you talk about timing. But no, I think you're onto something. I think it takes some really established players a long time to finally give in and say, okay, maybe I do need to make a change.
Yeah, listen, that's a great point, because I've often thought 2 things about baseball players. One, I think they're eternal optimists, because you can be 0 for 14 and you know that next swing, that could take you out of it. But also, I think good players have to have a certain amount of stubbornness, and in order, especially when you have a track record, to say, yeah, I'm okay.
Back 9, 2 years left on a giant deal will give me room to go up to a player and go, dude, that ain't working. I'm sorry. Will.
Yeah, but you still have to get, but he knows why he got the big contract, and you still need to get buy-in from a guy. And not everybody's the same. Not everybody is, willing to, I don't know. Caleb, it's weird. As this went on, I think I understood a little more from George's point of view.
Well, oddly enough. Caleb, me and you talk all the time, and we always ask each other the same question. And you guys played, so
you would know more.
Well, why does the slumps last so long? Now we know.
Well,
it's like, when John gave the answer the other day, when I asked him why it took so long to change that little hand thing with George, just to allow it to free it up to get to velocity. It's real simple. It seems like baseball 101. And now it just sort of, the little light bulb went on, and now you understand why the slumps last months.
Yeah. Well, for me as an outsider, I do understand how you can point this at a hitting coach or a hitting group or hitting strategist, anybody with hitting in their title. I do totally understand how you can say, how do you not say something? But my initial reaction is to Springer. How do you not have enough and say, okay, enough's enough. I got to look in the mirror every single day and say, okay, I finally am looking in the correct mirror, no smoke in front of it, and going, this isn't good enough. Like, I need to change. And maybe I was hyper focused on changing and making adjustments. Maybe that's why I wasn't as good of a hitter as I probably could have been. And maybe I could have benefited from not changing as much and staying with it. But, I mean, again, we hear process over and over and over. Stay with the process. Well, George has a process for 10 years. My gripe is, hey, this isn't just this year. This dates back to, goodness, June of last year.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
I will tell you this. If you're going to go into it, and first off, I would have hoped to have seen that change in spring training, like going back and reassessing after you've had time to really look at it and say, okay, that didn't really work. Was there something I was doing? That's when I would have hoped that George alone would have made the adjustment.
Yeah. Can you explain to me how this bullpen got through 4 scoreless innings while stranding 11? Now, I understand it is the Mariners, and they are not very good with runners in scoring position. But I think you used the phrase, you talked about the bullpen in this series being like magicians, which was perfect because I did. There are a couple of situations where I came away shaking my head and going, I don't know how it happened, but it happened. And you know what? A series win is a series win for these guys. And
Absolutely.
But to zero in particular, a guy who's kind of intrigued me a little bit is Brendan Little here.
Yeah.
What do you see in him, and what did you see out of the bullpen in this series? Was that a gutsy performance, or was that just, sloppy?
Yeah, I'll give you a very quick rundown for me, especially this series. For me, Genesis Cabrera, he is 50-50. He's either going to go through up, through down, or it's going to be all over the place because he's a scatterer. I love what Chad Green's done. He's probably their most valuable trade piece, in my opinion. We can go there in a little bit. Brendan Little, most intriguing player, I think. Why? Because he, to me, looks a lot like an Aaron Loop. It's not the same arm angle, but he kind of has that same swagger on the mound. He looks like he's very even keel. I don't know what it is, but maybe just a little bit of that, like, bleep you in him. And he's a quiet guy, but he doesn't perform as a rookie. He looks like he can handle the spotlight. Love the fact that he showed some emotion when he got out of that inning. Zach Pop, again, for me, it's more of a runner than a sinker. I love the movement, but until he figures out how to get that ball going down, he's going to have innings just like this because he can't control the movement. And Pearson, I think Pearson is just at the mercy of who he's facing. He got out of that jam. I thought it was great. I'm not trying to poo-poo on a guy's great outing because he comes in with first and second, nobody out, and is able to get out of it. But if you go look at the Baseball Savant pitch charts, it was either non-competitive or right down the middle. So I think he might be like Cabrera in that he's at the mercy of who is in the box. But like you have a bunch of these kind of ups and downs. Even Trevor Richards, what he does is pretty amazing with one single pitch.
Yep.
But if the matchup isn't perfect, he's incredibly vulnerable. So I think they were really at the mercy of who they played, and that's why they were able to escape so many bases loaded jams on the road in a season where they have given it up so many times. I'm glad that they did it. I don't want to take anything away from them because it was an awesome win, and it was really fun to watch them escape those jams. But I saw a lot of pitches kind of in the heart of the plate where most offenses would put that somewhere in the outfield or somewhere hit really hard, and I think the outcome looks a little bit different.
Let me ask you a question. You mentioned Chad Green. I see the slider against lefties. That's no bueno. I don't like that. The elevated fastball with the extra little gear, that's nice. I may ask you a question. A guy that's been around as long as he has, in season, you mentioned something about a trade. That's kind of nice, but the Blue Jays still need dudes who can pitch late in the game. Is there any chance he could develop, say, a split finger, grip it and rip it pitch? Now, he tried the little slow feel of the breaking ball in spring training. That thing was no bueno. You don't like that. You don't want to hang that thing. That's good hitting. That's a BP heater. But any chance you think he can do that? I just don't think the slider against lefties, and that would scream pocket. And, again, that gets back to that's a lot to ask Petey and John to match up everybody.
Right.
Think a veteran guy can do that this late in the season.
Oof. I would probably think a changeup would be easier than a split. Splits are they're so finicky. It takes a long time to figure out that grip, how it comes off the fingers because the fingers are spread out. You got to have the right hand size, which I'm sure Chad Green has considering he's a large human being.
Yeah.
But if you throw it, it's totally for chase. What I will suggest with Chad Green is the slider to lefties. I think he's got to work it more in and down. And I know that's a honey spot for guys, but instead of trying to make it more kind of backdoorish, middle away, moving down, I really think it's got to be right on the corner or down because that fastball plays up so much that lefties have to get going. And so when they have to get going is when they're vulnerable down and in. But if you get them going and get them cheating a little bit because of that high-octane velocity, and then you throw a slider more middle-ish, they can still have the fanny out and one-hand it. But if you get it close to them, that's when they two-hand and swing right over the top of it. So I think he's really got to concentrate on getting that slider down and into lefties, and it is a scary pitch, I will admit. Mm-hmm. I would love to see him with a split. I think he could do it because of the way the arm is in terms of angle, and you only be on the side of a split finger, and I love where his arm is at and how he throws the four seam. Most guys that can throw a pretty straight four seam can throw a split really well. So he obviously has that straight four seam. I could see him doing it, but it would be a lot just because that pitch is so unique and so weird.
Yeah, I think his height, the lane on the elevated fastball is just hard for a left-handed hitter to lay off of. I think what you're saying is don't aim the slider, throw it. I know a lot of guys want to pitch at the back end of the pen. He don't have to do it with the slider. I just think he needs something going down, sort of tunneling off that elevated thing because he's a giant. Like you got to change your eyesight, right? Just looking up, seeing – kind of like the Iron Mike kind of thing. Well,
absolutely.
Yeah. It's a lot to ask. Again, it's his career. So with Yariel Rodriguez, what do you think next step is? I know strike one, he has some issues, but boy, you like the fastball. When he can do these kind of things with the fastball, it just makes that plethora of all the other stuff he's trying to do. But what would be next step? You're catching him. Mm-hmm. What's next step?
To be perfectly honest, next step is just doing it again. He's done it 2 starts in a row. Do it again and again because he's on the right track. And for me, the right track for him is understanding that his stuff plays in the big leagues. Remember, I've said this over and over. He comes from the MPB, which is a very trickery type art of pitching. Lots of ball-to-ball pitches that look like strikes, but they're not. Guys that are nibblers. They're all around the corner. And I loved that Yankees start and this past Seattle start that he got outs in the zone. I think he got 12 outs against the Yankees, which are really good offense, in zone. And so that gives a player like Yariel Rodriguez a lot of confidence to get in there early. And if you're in there early, you're going to get the team in swing mode, and then you can start to expand. But obviously strike one is number one. And I love what Pete Walker's done with him. He's let him kind of do his thing, and I think that injury might have helped a little bit in allowing him to be around the team a little bit and kind of continue to see how guys work and feel confident that he can go in zone right away. What that's going to do is limit the pitches. It's going to shoot the innings pitched up north, and he's going to be incredibly efficient. And so I think it all starts with his aggressiveness in zone with the fastball because he's got that little cut, late action. You can't teach that. It's so difficult. You got to see it 2 or 3 times to really get a feel for how it's cutting and where you've got to swing as a hitter. And by that time, hopefully you've gone 3 or 4 times through the lineup with Rodriguez. So I love what he's doing. It's really a perfect mold, and just continue to get in zone, stay in zone, not worry about whiff, not worry about strikeouts, not worry about trickery. Just say, here it is, be confident. And he's going to give up some hits. He might even give up a couple solo homers. But if he stays in zone, his progression is going to keep going north. The stuff is elite. It's really good. It's just a matter of can he throw it in the zone enough and then work and start to expand so the innings pitch go up.
Caleb, as always, we appreciate your time. Back to the diapers, my friend.
Good luck, buddy.
You got it, guys. Take it easy.
Take care.
Man.
Caleb Joseph, Blue Jay Central analyst, joining us on Sportsnet.
Sorry I hogged him there a little bit. But,
I know you guys have a thing. I just stand back.
It's not
and,
really a thing. It's just.
Well, you guys, I enjoy. I'm lucky enough to hear you guys talk about it when Caleb's in studio and doing Blue Jay Central and you're hanging around. So I'm going to step back because it's good baseball talk. And people are wearing. Look at this. This is the thing, you and Caleb. I'm going to show people this. People always. I'm not always drawing. I'm generally not drawing. I'm taking notes when a lot of these guys are talking. And
I like it.
You and Caleb talk. I got a page full of notes.
Yeah,
man.
I just think it's very intriguing about that relationship between pitching coach and hitter, and how
hitting coach and hitter.
Yeah, what'd I say?
Pitching
coach. Well, yeah.
Don't blame Pete for that now.
I've often said the pitching coach needs to be the hitting coach, but that's here nor there. I just find that mind-boggling.
But you see,
that at
it's
this
because
level that That it's this is not long. This if feelings come into play here, dudes are fired and this thing's broken up. But basically, that's where they're at here. Like this is. I think that's sort of the conversation sometimes is what you need to have with players.
Doesn't that really raise the question? And this is something that
the player not trust what the hitting coach is saying? What took you so long?
This is something that Jays fans are talking more and more about on social media and when they call up. And I think it's a legit question. You got Don Mattingly.
Yeah.
No, but let me finish. I mean, a great, not a good hitter, a freaking great hitter. And I understand I know where you're going. I can see Rod Carew's name flashing in your eyes because you had Rod Carew as a hitting coach. And I've been led to believe that he is not the best hitting coach you've ever had. So I understand great hitters don't necessarily make great hitting coaches, but everybody knows that Don Mattingly is. If Don Mattingly went to George Springer and said, come here for a minute, I want to talk to you about something, I've got to think that George Springer's going to go over and listen. And this is what, people will understand that this is an analytics-heavy organization. People know that. People get it. I mean, but at the end of the day, the average Jays fan says, if Don Mattingly can't sell you on something, like, what the hell is going on?
I just find it funny. When Kirk's hitting, he's hitting the fastball. When George is hitting, he's hitting the fastball. When Vladdy's hitting, he's destroying the fastball. When Danny Jansen's hitting, he's destroying the fastball. Are we seeing a theme here? This is not cat. This has nothing to do with khakis. This has nothing to do with game plans off the field, trying to translate it to on the field. How do I beat the dude to the spot consistently? All of a sudden, George is taking 98 to right center with backspin. Easy, Jeff. That was an easy 3-run homer. It took him 3 months. It's mind-boggling. It's like, holy. I'm sorry. Because it's almost like they talk themselves into can't, and now we're seeing them do it.
Yeah.
So it ain't can't.
But see, well, we'll talk about this a lot. We're up against the break here. We'll talk about it a lot because I also think that, this is where having a guy who was a former player who would have literally done everything.
Stand on my head and hit right-handed.
And this is why it gets particularly frustrating for you and for guys. And I get it. It's one thing to look at it as a fan and go, another thing to look at it as a player who's been there and going,
I just think it's as simple as how do you hit the fastball consistently? It ain't because George is 34 or 5 and can't do it. We're seeing him take 98 and backspin it.
Well, and the other thing, Buck and Dan, and I will take the break in a minute, folks. The other thing Buck and Dan pointed out, and we may not, you look at the analytics, his speed and all that, his running. I mean, he's not running like a broken down ball player. He's not. He's covering ground when we see him.
No, it's a mechanical tweak, and it's a mental mindset.
Let's step away. When we come back, Jon Paul Morosi will join us. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker. Well, I got to make a correction. In the interest of accuracy. It does matter. In the interest of accuracy, I got to make a correction. I'm afraid that I misspoke when I credited Derek Fisher with having an elite run tool. In point of fact, he had elite plate discipline and an above-average run tool. So I just wanted to, because that was how the GM described him when he acquired him. I credited him with having an elite run tool that was an above-average run.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that I had that. Because you know me, I'm, as much as I say that I gave up my journalist card when I became a sports talk show host, right. I do like to be a little bit accurate. Don't have to be accurate all the time because it's sports talk radio. But, I like to be as accurate as possible.
Okay. Way to correct it.
So there you go. I
don't think anybody cares. Good.
I think Mrs. Fisher does. I think Derek Fisher
You think
cares.
she's listening?
Hey, let's bring in Jon Morosi. He's MLB
He's
Network's MLB insider. He's listening.
Yes.
By the way,
I try to be accurate too.
Yeah.
all right, I'm just going to leave right now, and we will. Ta-dum. You went right there. By the way, I got to tell you, your collection of drawings behind you,
Tremendous.
as someone whose daughter used to draw all the time and to leave little notes, and just well done. I'm a big.
I appreciate it. They do change every now and then. We've got a happy birthday one, which my birthday was a couple months ago, so I probably have to change that one out. But I do try to refresh the artwork from time to time, and I'm very fortunate to have girls that really love to draw. So it really is a part of their connection to what I do. It's pretty cool.
It's the best.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what's going to be great, because I just had this happen the other day. Now, my daughter's 24 years old. I was looking for a book, and I found this certain book that I put in the shelf. I pulled it out, and there was this little welcome home thing she'd written to me after a road trip. And I was probably reading the book on the road, and I stuck it in anyhow. Just
It's great being a dad.
It is.
I would say probably about a good solid. That was probably a good solid 5-minute cry, Jeff, as a proud dad moment.
Yeah, five was five was about right. So we're at that time of year, July 8th. Well, we're not really. Yeah, we are.
Well,
it is. We've been there for a while.
That's a fact.
Spending a great deal of time talking about the MLB trade deadline. Before you get to the Blue Jays, I wanted to ask you about 3 teams in particular who've kind of crossed paths in the last week. And that is seeing what the Reds did in the Bronx and seeing what the Red Sox did to the Yankees. Which of those 3 teams do you think is probably came out of the Bronx or came out of those games thinking, really thinking about what they have to do at the trade deadline?
The Yankees have some work to do, Jeff, because when you look at their roster, and certainly the Ben Rice game, and he gets the curtain call, which was wonderful and a great moment, but they were humbled again last night by Rafael Devers. And the Yankees, to me, are a team that revolves around their 2 superstars in Judge and Soto. They've had, I think, the Garrett Cole re-entry to the rotation has not been quite as smooth as they thought it was going to be. Not only because of Garrett Cole's performance, but Luis Gil and his struggles of late, where for the first couple months he pitched like Garrett Cole, and then he hasn't. Rodon has been a little bit off his game from where he was at the beginning of the year. The bridge to Clay Holmes, who of course is an all-star, hasn't been quite as solid as it was earlier on in the season. So when you look at those 2 teams, the Yankees and the Orioles, the momentum belongs to the Orioles right now. And I think they also will probably have the better prospect capital to make some moves with as we get closer to the deadline. I think the Reds, for me, they should be, in my judgment, an opportunistic seller. When I look at the Reds team, they've got enough outfield bats to potentially move. Fairchild is a new name that's emerged. I look at also Jonathan India as an infielder who could potentially get moved. It's interesting. Any team that we think about or mention as being a possible fit for Bo Bichette, the immediate response should be, look at Jonathan India. And while Bo maybe has the peak of Bichette is better than probably Jonathan India's peak, the consistency of India has been better. And there probably is a bit of a clearer fit for him to be traded somewhere than for Bo to be dealt somewhere. So I think the Reds, for me, still belong in the seller category. The Yankees have some serious work to do. And the Red Sox, it's such an interesting topic because they were the team that underwhelmed so much in the offseason, Jeff and Kevin. But with Alex Cora's philosophy, with all-star starter Tanner Houck, they've done a very good job, I think, of doing the very best with what they've got. And I think for Boston, stay the course, and they just might find themselves in the postseason.
That's exactly what I was going to say, because I know there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Boston Red Sox to do something. But if I'm the Red Sox and I've got Trevor Story coming back next year, I've got some young guys, I just kind of, and I know the Red Sox fans will hate this, I just kind of keep doing what I'm doing. And if somebody that I've got control, I'll have control for in the next 3 years falls into my lap, somebody that can be there, then I go after. But I don't think I go rental if I'm the Red Sox. I don't.
If I'm a fan, I'm mad. How do you have any idea if the ownership wants to spend money or not on the Red Sox? That's the thing, right? If you want to
in the past.
If you want to stand pat, fine and dandy, but you better go out in the offseason and spend some more money. No, I mean that's what you'd have to
Kevin,
know.
It's an excellent point, and I think that the Red Sox, and from the standpoint of their relationship between the organization and their fans, it's probably never completely recovered.
Right.
Once Mookie Betts went to LA.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well said.
At the end of the day, you start looking at your roster and saying, who do you want to sign long-term? Well, you want to sign someone who's a proven winner, amazing in the clubhouse, great ambassador for the game, homegrown. He can move around the diamond for you. You can move around the lineup for you depending on what you need. Mookie Betts is everything that you would dream of, and he's no longer there. And I think that for that reason, it's been too easy when Red Sox fans have been frustrated when Mookie Betts does Mookie Betts things. The response is always, wow, wouldn't you want to sign a guy like that?
Yeah, and the other response, too, is always the GM going, hey, I didn't trade him.
True.
Don't look at me. That's guy a couple of years ago. Don't look at me. I didn't trade Mookie Betts.
JP, and let's
right.
Absolutely. JP, let's move over to the AL West, and let's talk about the Rangers. How big of a splash at the trade deadline do you think the Rangers will do? And will that start soon? Because I would think, say they go on a mini run. Now they'd be forced as a front office to do something. Why wouldn't they just start now doing it?
It's a great question, Kevin. So this is part of the calendar and the mechanics of the industry right now. I had a conversation with a GM today, assistant GM, and the word was, John, we know that it's a busy time for all of us that want to talk trades. We've got draft meetings this week. Call us back in a week.
Yeah.
And I think that to your question, Kevin, the answer on the Rangers, they have signaled. I was speaking over the weekend to one longtime player personnel person who said to me, John, I think Texas is going to sell, but they're not quite ready yet. They're going to do their draft business. Then we'll circle back after the All-Star game. I think that's probably where a lot of teams are right now. But when you look at the Texas Rangers, it's been a bit of an injury forced situation for them, but they've now gotten a lot of their talent back, and it just hasn't worked out for them this year. And that's okay. I think if anything, Kevin, the fact that they're the reigning World Series champions makes it maybe just a little bit easier to say, much as the Nationals did years ago when they moved on from Trey Turner and Max Scherzer, and then eventually they moved on from Juan Soto, it was just time. And it was not happening for them that year. They weren't able to extend the window. Let's pivot and prepare for the future. I think in the case of the Rangers, they should be a better team next year, assuming a fully healthy season from a DeGrom, Malley, those types of players. But honestly, I think their biggest splash is going to be in reverse, where they might trade some players. Michael Lorenzen is a natural trade fit. Even, let's think about this, Max Scherzer. What incentive does Max Scherzer have in terms of obviously his own professional pride, which is immense, but in terms of finishing out the year, now that he's in his early 40s, if the team is not going to win, if they come to Max and say, listen, we could trade you to a team like the Mariners, like the Astros, like the Yankees, at the end of the day, he'd probably say, sure, I'll go chase another World Series ring. So I think for Max, remember, Texas was not the place he signed originally. That was that was sort of a convenience trade a year ago. The one thing, of course, is the different options that may be attached to the contract, the no trade clause. Those types of things get interesting. But I think in general, Max Scherzer might actually be a trade candidate for the second straight year.
How about Eovaldi to the Yankees? How about that?
Would love it.
Yeah.
And by the way, Kevin, it's a great suggestion. Eovaldi has been a Yankee before. And actually, when he had his Tommy John surgery, the second one, Dr. Christopher Ahmad, the Yankees team physician, was the surgeon, I believe, who did that operation. And so Dr. Ahmad, who the Yankees rely on for a lot of their medical information, knows Nathan exceptionally well. And so there's both a baseball reason and an injury comfort level, injury risk mitigation reason where maybe the Yankees could be a good spot for him as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hearing you talk about Jonathan India and the Rangers possibly trading those starting pitchers, that almost makes me think, if you're the Blue Jays right now, We've been talking about what they might do. It's one thing people sometimes don't take into consideration about the trade market, isn't it? The Jays aren't going to be the only sellers out there. Mm-mm. And if Texas decides to unload guys with track records, that impacts Chris Bassett's value. If teams decide to unload middle infielders, if the Jays are considering moving Bo, that impacts value there. And that's kind of the concern I think you have to have if you're a Blue Jays fan right now. Another team I'll throw out there, when you look at the St. Louis Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals got position players they could put in the market. That also has to impact what you do if you're the Blue Jays. Like, it's not a vacuum, is it?
Correct. And I think, and I loved, by the way, the interview that Ross Atkins did with the both of you was an excellent interview and very insightful, because you got to hear a bit of Ross's thought process. And then at the very end, I think one of the more important sentences he spoke to you was that, and I'm paraphrasing here, if we have to pivot, we will. We'll be ready to do that. And I think that, to me, when I was listening to that part of the interview, my ears perked up and said, they're listening. They realize that where they're at in the standings right now. And that, to me, said that the Jays will likely look at this deadline on something of a continuum, which means this. If there were 10 teams out there today who were willing to give up 2 or 3 top 100 prospects to get Vlad Jr., they would really seriously, I believe, they would seriously think about that trade. What I'm here to say is I'm not sure that type of market is there. Mm-hmm. Yes, he's played better. Yes, he's an all-star. But if you go up and down the major leagues and ask yourself, how many teams, with the exception of Seattle, who has a good farm system and has a need at first base, I think they're one. But you start looking around. Houston might be more inclined to look for a starting pitcher as opposed to a bat. The Baltimore Orioles, they like they've got first base. Yeah.
There you go. I think we lost
He was
John.
on a roll, too.
We'll try to get him back.
Yeah,
we got time to try to get him back, because I want to
finish that up.
Even if we just do it by phone, I want to get the answer. I want to get the answer in the Orioles. Yeah, listen, it's I'm almost talking myself into thinking that the Jays aren't going to do anything with Vlad and Bo. And as I've said, I would much rather this team do its heavy lifting in the offseason, when I can move some parts around, when I have a better sense of how much money I'm going to have. Okay, we have John. There you go, John. Nice. Welcome back. Please continue your thought process.
Yes, and so the point there, I love that. Thank you, buddy. Thanks for your patience.
You can tell we've been talking about analytics. Process.
So along those lines, what I was trying to kind of walk my way through is, while I believe that a team like Seattle would definitely have interest in Vladdy, and a lot of teams would on some level, but this goes back to something that Doug Melvin told me years and years ago, which is it's almost always easier to trade pitching at the deadline and bats in the offseason. Because Kevin Gausman, Chris Bassett, they are better than basically every third and fourth starter in the entire sport. So they're going to make if there's 15 contenders, they help 15 contenders. It's not quite the same thing with Vlad and with Bo, especially if there's some uncertainty with Bo. Would he bump your shortstop off of shortstop? Yep. Would he be willing to play second base? There's a lot of questions there that don't exist, where basically if it's Kevin Gausman or Bassett or Kikuchi, who's a pending free agent, easier decision than anything to say, yeah, he's better than our third starter. He's in our rotation for the rest of the season. So I think, as I was saying, Baltimore, whether it's O'Hearn, they've got a lot of infielders. They're not going to call the Jays about Vladdy. They're just not. I think the Yankees, they seem to be okay with Ben Rice right now. They're not going to dip into their farm system and give the Jays 2 prospects, because they need those prospects to upgrade their rotation. I just think there's the market for Vlad is fascinating. I think the market for Vlad will slightly underwhelm what might be the Jays' increasing openness to moving him. I really believe that on some level, just like Ross said, they'll pivot if they have to. I think they really would. But I'm just not sure if they're going to look at the landscape and say, if you're not going to give me 2 of the best 50 prospects in the game, I'll just keep them and take my chances in 2025.
Yeah, listen, I've felt all along that Bo and Vladdy, that's an off-season move when you know how much money you're going to have, when you've got a better idea who's going to be out there in free agency, non-tender guys, all those things. I just think it's an easier decision in the offseason than in season. And I'm with you. And David Sampson said the same thing Doug Melvin told you. He said our approach was always it's easier to trade pitchers at the deadline. And because people might overpay for pitchers at the deadline, they generally won't overpay for a position player at the deadline.
Correct. And I think that's why you're seeing teams like the White Sox with Crochet, the Tigers maybe with Skubal. I still think that is maybe unlikely, but this is the time to do it, Kevin. You look back at the history of when pitchers, if you're not really going for it, and the Tigers, for me, they've underwhelmed. I watched them closely, obviously. They've disappointed me a little bit this season. And so when I look at what they've been able to do or not do this year, I would say that if you're not convinced that you're going to be competing for a division title next year, then you're talking about only 1 year of Skubal in 2026, where he's got a chance to pitch you into the playoffs. If that's really what you're thinking, then you should put him out there and see what you might be able to
give me a team. JP, give me a team that you think can afford a guy like that, because you'd have to back up the truck. Like a
Baltimore.
Really?
Baltimore all day long.
Wow.
I think if you look at Baltimore's farm system strength at the top levels, and not necessarily Jackson Holiday, but with new ownership coming in, they've already got Corbin Burns. Notably, they haven't signed Corbin Burns yet. And so if you want to find a way to sustain your success, and you can't play all these guys. There's not enough room for everybody. And by the way, I think Jordan Westberg is better than they thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
And you can't get him off the field now. Okay? Cowser, Kobe Mayo, like this amazing group of talent. Jackson Holiday is still there. He'll make an impact at some point. There isn't room for all of them. And so I really think whether it's Crochet or Skubal, do not be surprised if on July 30th, Baltimore gets one of those two big-time lefties, because remember, it's a better park to pitch in than it was years gone by.
Absolutely.
And they don't have room, Kevin, for everybody. Heston Kierstad's one more name. So we'll see. I'm not going to say it's likely, but I certainly think it's somewhere on the menu of possibilities, because Baltimore has the kind of prospects that can make any GM think seriously about moving an ace.
Crazy.
John, really good of you to do this as always, my friend. Be well.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Sounds great, guys. All the best. Thank you.
Take care. Jon Morosi, MLB Insider, the MLB Network. And listen, the Orioles, man, they can.
Here's the only thing I wonder. If winning the American League East will change their mind. Like, they got some momentum down the East.
They did last year.
I know that. But it's like if we're good enough to win the East, are we good enough to make a deep run into the playoffs? That's the thing.
They weren't last year.
I know, but this is a different team. This is a little bit more experienced team. They got their shortstop now. They got an extra year of, their catcher. Like, they got some things, right? I wonder.
I think John is right. I think, man, with all those prospects,
you imagine Skubal
go for it now,
rotation?
Especially with the Yankees being what they are. You imagine Skubal in this division, and that's for a couple of years.
Well, they'd still need another arm in the bullpen too, though. I mean, do you have enough to get it all? Like, that's what it's about, right? Yeah. It's about shortening the game, 7-inning games. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. No, I'm really keeping an eye on the Orioles and Mike Elias and the Cardinals, man. You keep hearing now that they may have Jordan Walker out there, and that's the type of guy, 6'6" hitter. That's the type of guy that organizations might be looking at and going, you know what? That dude that might be part of our next window. That's the thing with the Jays. That's why I think you got to wait until the offseason, because the guys you're getting have to be part of your next window. They have to be here for a minimum of 3 years. And I don't think you do that in season. That's it for us. We will be back tomorrow from 4 to 6 Eastern on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet. Enjoy the rest of your day.